So this is Dash McIntyre that we've got on the show today. He's the runner of the Halfway Cafe publication on here, who does some really terrific satire. I initially discovered him through Medium, and yeah, let me know if you want to introduce yourself at all, Dash.
Yeah, I write the Halfway Post, and I've been doing that for many years. I kind of consider myself a Dadaist, like the Dada movement from the early 1900s, like post World War One. And I write a lot of just like absurdist, I call it graffiti news. So mostly about Donald Trump and the Trump administration and their chronic fascist tendencies, I guess we could say. That's basically what I spend most of my day mocking.
Oh, your stuff is super funny. I see it in my feed all the time, and
Oh
always
yeah,
gives me like a yeah, and it's
yeah,
always uplifting. It's like, oh, sometimes it's like in the form of a news story, and it's like, well, and then it's
yeah.
your satire is good enough. You can tell it's satire though. Like half the stuff today, you don't know if what's real or what's not when they say what people said. So the mockery always comes through in your work.
Yeah. And
I know.
and it's
I
called the Halfway Post. I write like I call it like halfway real news. So it's like kind of stuff that's like believable because like it's hard to keep up with the Trump administration's absurdities. Like a lot of people will
yeah.
say,
Yeah,
"Oh, they killed satire." And it's like, well, they didn't really kill it. It's definitely harder. Like I have to, to keep the metaphor of like a marathon, like I have to run harder and faster to keep up with their moving the Overton window into absurdity. But like, I don't know, I just scroll the news, I doom scroll all day, and I never run out of ideas to mock and,
yeah.
like, come up with, so
Yeah, I was curious to ask you if any of the more grim updates of the past couple weeks had made your job at all more challenging, or if it's still been full speed ahead for you.
well, yeah, full steam ahead, it's I've really had a field day the last couple of days with the Epstein stuff, which, I mean,
Oh
like, the
boy.
cover
Yeah.
up is, like,
Okay.
really
Yeah.
insane,
That's.
but, like, the last, like, 2 days, like, nonstop Epstein jokes, and I do think it's like drawing attention to things I think deserve to be drawn attention to, so sometimes, like, Pete Hegseth will do something just so stupid, and I'm like, "Ah, I need to make fun of him," and then come up with something, like, based off of that specific, person, but man, I don't know, it's like it's interesting because I'm getting like kind of big enough where people associate me with like The Onion and like understand its satire. But then when I go viral, obviously there's a lot of people who have never heard of the Halfway Post, and then they
Mhm.
take it for real, which makes it go more viral. And it is kind of fun. So I mean, like I don't hide the fact that I'm satire. There's some bad faith people out there that just write crap, but like on all my bios and stuff, I write that I'm satire and comedy. But it's definitely like it's kind of like pulling pranks and being a little puckish online, and I don't know,
What?
it just keeps
What?
me sane a
I
little
was
bit.
I I
Oh,
was just
wait.
talking to someone else earlier today about how much trouble he has getting his satire actually identified as satire because how crazy the news has gotten. People are just like, "Wait, is this real?"
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think about that a lot. I try to make my satire like on the nose, kind of. And sometimes I think it's almost like borderline like stupid because it's so on the nose. But then, like, other than like the tweeting and like the threads post, like the headlines I do kind of hourly, like one, like probably like daily, I try to write like an article where it's like a real kind of, satirical news article, and then like I'll just write long monologues. Like I have this like acting background, so I kind of get into the character and I'll just write these long monologues. And it seems like it's so on the nose, but like conservatives have just gotten, and like maybe to be more fair, MAGA people more than conservatives have just gotten like so cultish where it's like literally it's like almost impossible to be too on the nose for people to
Yeah.
not think, oh yeah, that literally could have happened. Like I wrote this
Yeah.
one that went a little viral on Medium about this woman who was running, like walking through the park, just screaming at all the brown people that she saw and blaming them for all of her like life problems and things like that, and then acting like if they all just get deported, suddenly her Walmart job will promote her and she'll get stock options and vacation pay. And it's just like so many people are like this. I can't even tell this is satire. This is like literally what I hear people say. And then
Yeah.
like you get into the Epstein stuff again, like the defenses, like all these people coming out now saying, well, I don't approve of it, but God wants us to forgive. So it's the Christian thing to forgive Donald Trump, even though like they spent their
Yeah.
entire lives and every political statement they've ever made talking about how character matters, and that's the only thing is Christian values. And it's like
Yep.
how like that is something I haven't figured out how to satirize that yet. People that are willingly saying I would be okay if Trump like raped my daughter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like how do you satirize that? It's just like so despicable. I don't.
Well, and they have no forgiveness or tolerance for immigrants,
Yeah,
but
or
they're
Democrats
willing to
who
do.
do like way less harmful
People
like
are just trying to
transgressions.
like help their kids survive and get a better life. But what
Yeah,
you're
right.
doing is so critical. I wrote an article recently, and you have to keep our good humor up. I mean, and I'm a lot of times I'm doing these talks with people, and we're talking about things that are just horrible, and I'll just start laughing, and it's like I'm not laughing because I don't take this seriously. I'm laughing to just
Yeah,
keep my own power up and my will to keep going. But that's how
yeah,
you dismantle fascism because they want us to be afraid and miserable and just
right.
cowering. And if you just repeat back the things that they say, they're so absurd, it just dismantles and it loses a lot of its power. So what you're doing is super important, even though, it's like sometimes
Yeah,
we're dismissive of humor, but it's like this is actually
right.
how you dismantle fascism is through humor. So it's great.
Yeah, I
Even just a
appreciate that.
moment ago, I found myself smiling at something one of you said, and I was wondering, is this really appropriate for me to be smiling right now? But like you said, you have to keep the humor up, and you can't just it's not sustainable for us to be deadpan serious all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
Dana,
yeah, it's cathartic to laugh at like the absurdity, like
you
that's.
have to.
Yeah, because I doom scroll all day. I'm addicted to Twitter and Threads and Substack, and now everything got fractured. So there's just more platforms for me to doom scroll all day, which is probably not great for my mental health. But it's like the only thing that keeps me sane throughout all this is just making jokes about it constantly. And I do think, like with fascism, it's like you have to make them look ridiculous and clownish and stupid because the whole idea is the strongman
Yes.
demagogic cult, like the poster boy cult leader Donald Trump. Like you have to make him look ridiculous, and he is
Yep.
like. Which is, I think in the future we'll look back at this time and it'll be like people like seeing the videos of like Hitler screaming and looking like, deranged. It's like the same
Yeah.
thing with Trump, like his bright orange face where the makeup stops right here and his ears are like completely different color and he didn't get his neck right. And he's just like, all these cabinet meetings where he has no idea what he's talking about. He does no homework whatsoever. He
Right.
clearly doesn't read anything. Like you just have to mock him and make fun of him because, like he's not a strong man. He's like a
Correct.
weak person's idea of a strong man. He's a poor person's idea of a rich person. Like,
Absolutely.
every attribute he wants to go for, he's the opposite.
It really
Yeah,
is
Dana.
crazy how it's hard on one hand not to be scared of him and the power that he has, and then you turn around and see these things he says, and like you say, he's not a strong man at all, and there's no strong man that is so deeply inarticulate and able to express their thoughts, and oh man, it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I like writing monologues. And is I feel like it's kind of easy to like write like the halfway post. I've done a website since like 2017, and it's like a lot of my articles have just been like long meandering monologues in Trump's voice. But I find it's kind of easy because you don't have to know anything about anything to like sat because he doesn't know anything. He calls everything the greatest or tremendous or the worst. He's got this superlative vocabulary because he doesn't know anything. So
right.
to satirize him, you don't need to know anything. You just it's like I find it kind of like a interesting endeavor to satirize him in his voice because his voice is so
Yeah,
stupid and skim and superficial.
yeah,
Let
it's
me
a
just say quick. Let me get in. Dana, Peter was teasing me. He says I have to put up my hand. But Dana, well, I
Ah,
never got if it was Dana Dubois or Du Bois, like WB Du Bois, but probably Dubois. But she says that you need to come on the Daily Whatever Dash. She invited you onto their program, which is a really
okay.
fun program. So just so that invitation was out there, they're really wonderful. You'll have a good time. So
Oh yeah,
I got
yeah.
that.
Reach out to
Back to
me.
you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great people in the chat today. I see Peter and Dana, you just mentioned, joined. Abby Paradise is here as well. Um, I'm still in love with that last name,
Peter,
but
yeah, yeah, it is. It is a good. I like. That's a lovely spelling of that. So.
do
Well,
you
we
guys
got
want
to
to
get off
segue
politics though, and
into?
we
Yeah,
got to get
I
into
was just
movies.
about to
I
say.
appreciate the
Yeah,
aside, but we need to get away from that.
yeah. I
What?
always feel compelled to give a bit of an introduction, but yeah, that
Oh yes, yes,
definitely
yes. No, it's
it's
good. I
hard. It's
appreciate
hard
what
not
that
to get
is.
into the state of things sometimes, and especially
Yeah,
when you're talking about political
it's
satire. It's
impossible. Well, when
yeah,
you got the Gestapo knocking down your door, you can't like
Yeah.
yeah,
disregard
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
Part
yeah.
of what I do, I kind of think it's like almost like a First Amendment experiment of like how
whew, yeah,
relentlessly can I mock the chief executive of the United States, and like I. one thing I hate about this era is how many people just give in and give up. It's like Biden pardoning all these people.
Yeah,
It's like I do think at some point somebody needs to risk going to jail to go to court and make these people say, hey, like all bring up all your arguments for why you're like these clown prosecutions like they're doing against these former
yeah,
Biden officials now. It's like maybe I'll get sued. I hope not. But like, there's slap lawsuits and like the shit I write is like probably pretty condescending and offensive to a lot of the people in power that I mock. So I don't know. I kind of like the idea that maybe almost like a beatnik kind of thing of like, should the First Amendment protect like the things I write? And
yeah.
I don't know. I think they should. Like the Supreme Court has like a long-standing tradition of like backing First Amendment rights. Even like Hustler magazine had this famous
Yep.
lawsuit in 1978 where I forget. I think it was Jerry Falwell. One of the televangelists sued them because they put out an ad saying that Falwell grew up in it, like banging his mom in an outhouse, and it was like a fake ad for humor. But then Falwell sued them for like
Yeah. Libel or
emotional
something.
distress
Yeah.
or something. And then the Supreme Court voted 8-0, like unanimously, that like Hustler has the First Amendment protected right to claim public televangelists bang their mom in outhouses.
Well, you'll see Republicans go to the mat over the idea of doing Nazi salutes and like, but then they'll like attack other people. But then they'll censor textbooks. So it's like we've got this
Yeah.
really bizarre. It's like, and I just don't understand why the left can't come up and say, "Look, you guys were so forceful in your defense of." Speaking the words of Nazis, why can't you be equally forceful in the defense of speaking for the defense of academic theories? But
Yeah,
it's
no,
just like it's out
for
the
real.
window. I don't know what to do. I have no predictions of what's going to happen in the future. I'm just trying to laugh. But the
Yeah,
shit thinking, we're just laughing.
right.
Woohoo!
So,
I
on deeply, deeply unrelated note now,
RoboCop.
have
Peter
have
says talk about RoboCop. I like that.
have have
Satire. That's the best version of satire right there. Yeah.
either of you guys seen the new Jurassic World yet?
Yep.
I
Yep.
have not. You saw,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah, what were your thoughts on this one, Walter? Are you up to date in the franchise up to this point, or no?
I liked it because, well, I was glad that it didn't have Chris Pratt in it because he had resting MAGA face now, as far as I'm concerned. Where it's just sort of like I can't even
Yeah.
watch him anymore.
Yeah.
But it was I kind of went into it with zero expectations to eat popcorn and enjoy the air conditioning, and it was just a fun movie. I like too that it has the now were they speaking Spanish? The family that was there. I think there were some scenes where they were speaking some Spanish, weren't they? But it was just sort of like I like that we have it seems like there's a little bit more diversity in a lot of these films. The same, like we said in Mission Impossible, where they seem to deliberately make all the airplane pilots women. And I'm just like little things like that. I think that representation that means a lot. But yeah, it's just a kind of a good movie. It was the kids had fun. They weren't overly scared from it, and yeah, it was a good entry.
I got curious to go back and compare it to the previous Jurassic Park, the last one with Chris Pratt, and it feels like
Oh,
a very, very distinct improvement from that. Like it really kind of felt like that one should be the last one. And when they initially announced this new one, I was like, yeah, I really feel like you guys got to just throw in the towel at this point.
well, the last
But
one was sort of like the Generations type thing, where they tried to get both the old cast and the new cast, and then it
mm,
became like this just mess,
yeah,
and just sort
I
of
kind
like
of hate
it's
when
fun
they
yeah,
do
watching that.
that. I kind
What's
of
that?
hate how they do that. They always like Star Wars and like a lot of other like big franchises. I feel like often like kind of like just it's like beating a dead horse a little bit. How they have to make everything relate to like the originals, and sometimes I think it really makes the storyline suffer. And then when you have to like throw in all these actors who are now like maybe 30 years older, and
Yeah,
like throw them and make it somehow meaningful to the story. I kind of wish like they would just make new like intellectual property instead of just like trying to like just like squeeze out like a sponge as much money and viewership as they can
yeah.
get out
yeah.
of like millennials or Gen X or whatever.
You get that old cash grab, and I mean, it really kind of started with the Planet. Well, the way I remember it is from the Planet of the Apes movies, because the
Yeah,
first one was good, and then they just turned just absolute garbage, and it was
yeah,
just like. And then what always would happen in other series is they do the first one, the second one would be like with 20% of the budget of the first one, and then by the third one it would be just put in space. It's like now in space,
yeah,
and it's just like, oh,
yeah.
that's guaranteed to be shit. And so that
Right.
that they even played with that in the Machete movies. Did you see those? Those Robert Rodriguez
Oh yeah,
Machete
yeah,
movies. They're funny, and they're just like the first one was Machete, and then the next one was Machete Kills, and then the next one was going to be Machete Kills again in space, but
Yeah.
then they never made it. It was like with Leonardo DiCaprio, and then they're like actor subject to change.
Can I ask what the premise of the new Jurassic Park movie is? Is it like they just another island with more dinosaurs?
Yep,
Like how, like
that's it. Yeah.
that's it?
Oh,
So
well, there's like an evil pharmaceutical company that knows that they can use the blood of the dinosaurs to make medication that'll save the
Mm,
world. So there's a subplot. It's like maybe we should just save everybody instead of just the rich people, which I
right.
kind of appreciated. They just throw that line in there, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of good. I'll take it. Any little
Yeah.
bit of like free healthcare for anybody is a good thing.
it's a bit of a return to form in that it's not completely all over the place. Like I would have a hard time even giving a synopsis for the previous Jurassic World movie. Like, and I think
Oh yeah.
it's a little bit
Was it?
funny to me when the two movies came out because I feel like Jurassic World Dominion was written by like really really early AI. Like that shit is just pretty garbage. Like it really is just like ChatGPT, how can we introduce this character and this character and this character? And
Oh,
the new one still feels to me like it is written by AI, but at least it's like better AI.
Yeah, I feel
it's
like
like
they need to like have the storyline first, but you just get these giant franchises that are like, yeah, we need to make another $1 billion in
Yeah,
2027. Someone get me a script, whatever it is. And so
yeah.
like they don't really have a reason to make the script other than just like, hey, it's still making us money each time we throw
right.
one out.
There's that one guy on the internet claims that the Mission Impossible movies, they conceive of the action sequences, and
Yeah.
then they write the script to fit the action sequences, which
I
seems
believe
like
it.
it might be true. I don't know if it's true or not.
I saw a clip recently of Tom Cruise where like it was like they did like 17 takes or I forget the exact number, but a ridiculous amount of takes of him like jumping out of an airplane. And I just have to imagine like the insurance on those films must be sky high. It's like we're
Yeah,
gonna have the lead actor do all his own stunts jumping out of an airplane like 12 times. And his like parachute catches on fire. So they got to do that 12 times. And it's like I think that might be Tom Cruise was like, hey, these are the stunts I want to do. Write me a script around those.
there was a story about how he had to fire his security director guy because the guy wouldn't sign off on the stunts he wanted to do. That's kind of funny though. That's
Yeah.
like a good way to promote your movie is to claim how
Yeah.
dangerous it was.
And isn't he
Tom
Good
like
for him.
60 now or something?
Tom
Yeah,
Cruise Tom Cruise is an actor that I have just has just never managed to capture my heart. I don't think I've ever really loved a single movie that he's been in, and I don't
yeah.
know if it's him himself that is the issue for me, but it might
Love
be.
it.
It really might just be.
Love is too strong a word. It's just sort of like it's going to be consistently like just a little better than mediocre. It's like after a long day of work, it's like I know what I'm going to get with this Tom Cruise movie. I just want to veg out. You put it on, it'll be consistently like a good solid B minus. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Sometimes you don't want to have to think
Yeah.
or
Oh,
even
good.
remember like what's going on in the plot,
Yeah,
but just watch a lot like mindless a little bit.
He's running. Well, that's anything else on Jurassic Park? I want to get to some of Dash's suggestions for the day. I'm curious what he's been consuming. Somebody said B plus for Oblivion. I agree with that. I like
I
the end of the end. What was it called? Tomorrow. The end of tomorrow. Is that what it was called? The one with Emily Blunt. Did you see that one? That's like the Groundhog Day science fiction movie. That one's really Edge of Tomorrow. That's what it's called.
Edge
That
of
one's
Tomorrow.
good. Watch that
Oh,
one.
maybe I did
if
see that one actually
He
a
I
keeps
while
had
getting
ago.
killed and he wakes up. He comes back
Right.
and he starts the day over. It's a good one.
if I had one quick final note on dinosaurs, it would just be that in general, okay, I love dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are so cool to me, and they're one of the few things that throughout my life have just like as a kid they were you're obsessed with like fire trucks and like any big loud noises, but dinosaurs are one of the few things throughout my life that every time I just like stop to think about the fact that these things literally existed and roamed the earth, it's just crazy. Like every couple months I just take a step back and just feel like, damn,
I don't know.
it's fucking
There's a
crazy.
kind of an age you go through too. I remember just being totally fascinated by them with a certain age, and it never quite goes away. But it's just like there was a time when that was just totally magic. There was like about
Yeah.
fourth grade. It was like the only thing I thought about was dinosaurs, and then
Yeah.
I guess it's just kind of linked into mortality. Like you're about
I,
the age when you're kind of thinking about mortality, and that's just kind of a convenient way. So it's kind of neat. I
I
don't know.
think I think I think like most wonderful things in life, you kind of just start to view it as mundane after a certain time. Like, oh yeah, dinosaurs are a thing. Okay, that's cool.
You
But
start
like,
to wish for death
you
as
really
you
just
get a little. By
Some of
about
the things.
fifth grade, you're wishing for death. So it's like that's it. All right,
I,
let's
I
Yeah,
move
like to
on to
think
what
about
Dash
how
has tackled.
I like to
yeah.
think about how like dinosaurs like I would love to go back in time and see how wrong we probably are in all of our characterizations of how they look. Because you look at like the skeleton of like a platypus that lives
Yeah,
today, and if you had like going off just the skeleton of a platypus and you had to like draw what it was, like you would be so far off from what
yeah.
it really looks like, especially like the tail. So I imagine there's quite a bit of that with dinosaurs that we're like a 6 year old's equivalent drawing of what dinosaurs would have looked like versus what they biologically really were like.
And
Have
in
you
the
ever
old days when they put the bones together all wrong too, so like
Yeah.
they've changed that over time.
Yeah.
have you ever heard about the Bone Wars?
Ah,
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
It's such an interesting period of history that no one ever talks about, and I'm blanking on the two names of the paleontologists now, but they were like the two leading minds of the field, and they were just in an all-out war with one another, and like it got as far as like bombing each other's sites and
oh,
espionage and like hiring spies, and it was
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a really
nowadays, if
I
you have a
kind of
dinosaur bone site, you gotta really keep it to yourself until you get everything. And then there
heard
were
that
like
some.
stories of like when like the people would go into like China or Africa or like find these sites of different bones of like dinosaurs or hominids or whatever, and then they start paying the local people for like every bone they dig up. So then the local people start breaking all the bones to make more
Sure.
money. I like that. It's like a perfect human result, like well
Yeah,
intentioned, but like not thinking through.
but then there's like some dinosaurs that were like the standard dinosaurs like didn't even exist. They were just completely fabricated by these early paleontologists. They
right.
were just pretending this is what we got. It's like no,
Yeah,
that didn't
right.
happen. Yeah. Well, tell us about some of your movies you've been watching, Dash.
Let's see. Most recently, I've been watching like instead of like Netflix, which I feel like has gotten like really bad and doesn't really have anything on it anymore. There's a platform called Canopy with a K that you can
Oh,
get like for
okay.
free with like your local library subscription.
Oh,
And they have like
nice.
a ton of Academy Award winning movies, a lot of old movies, international films, and it's like just a much wider audience and like more eclectically curated. So I've been like watching a lot of random lately I've been watching like old French and Italian movies from like the
Oh,
50s
wonderful.
through the 70s. And like I don't always necessarily pay attention. Like especially in France, they had that forget what they call it, like some nouveau period in the like post-war era when they started kind of like almost essentially like homemaking films again. Like Breathless was a famous one where it's not so much like a linear plot, and a lot of the guys would just run around and just
Yeah,
film random things, and then they kind of put it together in the editing room. But it's just kind of interesting, and I like the kind of view of like old Paris or old Rome
yeah.
and things like that.
I had an experience like that. Like Grand Prix just came on the TV. It was like so clearly from the '60s. I think it was Frankenheimer, and so the cars were racing, but it was like the just the style of the film was just so fun to look at. And it's like this is all vintage. It's like that they're making a film just whether it was in the streets that day, but it was made 60 years ago. So it's like this
Yeah.
is pretty cool to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. The French films are kind of funny too because there's like some blatant sexism that's like kind of amusing
Oh
to
yeah.
watch compared to today's standards. Like the
Yeah.
guys just treat the women like total shit, and the women don't like seem to appear to think anything's wrong with how they're being talked to or hit.
Yeah, the inadvertent you get, like, the blatant racism in the old American movies. I was
Yeah,
watching Force 10, like, Force 10 from Navarone, the way Harrison Ford treats Carl Weathers in that movie, you're just like, it's so cringy.
yeah,
It's just his casual interactions are just so racist, and it's
right.
like, "Boy, I didn't expect to stumble across that." What do you let's see, what else do we got? Ben, what do you think? I'll let him in.
It's always so fun watching movies from other cultures and just seeing how the approach to how they do everything is just completely different. Like there's such a commonality between all of the American movies you watch, and they're about different things, but there are still all these common threads. And Japanese culture is that way for me, especially. Where even just like watching the cartoons, it's just the entire approach is so different. And yeah, I really love that.
Do you like Studio Ghibli a lot?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I grew up on some of those movies, and I feel bad that I haven't actually watched more of them because of how impactful those few that I did see were. But Spirited Away, Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service. Um, Blanking on a couple of the other ones, but yeah, they're all terrific. The ones that I've seen. How about you?
W what Dash was saying, I think
Yeah,
was
I
really
like those.
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I like those as well. I like the aesthetic of them. I think like it's kind of like the Kaizen mindset that a lot of Japanese have, like in their culture and like their business and arts and like just everyday living. And so like even like things like Spirited Away, like the detail that they put into animating like preparation of food and things like that, that is
Yeah,
just so impressive and so aesthetically pleasing to see.
I was gonna say what Dash was saying about what's on the streaming services, and it's like, for one thing, I go to justwatch.com to just see what's available because it's first of all, we can't ever get through the menus because it's like they show the menus like comedy and then action. It's always the same like 10 movies. It's like I know you've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
thousands
yeah,
of titles. So I go to
right.
Just Watch to try and find, and that lets you kind of divide it up by years. So it's like, let's watch a movie from the 60s, but they've got a limited library of these older films, and it seems like what you're getting on the streaming services is just some new iteration of hero kills 100 people by shooting them in the head. And that's like every single movie is that now. And it's just sort of like, it's like you were saying, it'd be nice to just even watch a date, like a bad date, like in a foreign country, a bad date. Let's watch that.
Yeah.
Nobody dies. They go out for a croissant. I would want to watch that.
Well, there's a
And
problem now with like the movies that get made. Like they just don't put any money into small budget or even medium budget films anymore, really. And I heard somebody
yeah,
recently talking about how it used to be that like DVDs were such a big part of like sales and like a
yeah.
long comet's tail of profit. So
Mhm.
because they don't really have that and everything is kind of expected to be relatively free, like you maybe pay the subscription to like Hulu or whatever, and then but like all the content individually is like free after that. So like the idea that like they can't really finance a movie anymore for like $1 million or $10 million, and so now everything has to be like a Hail Mary throw for $1 billion movie.
Yeah.
And I think that is I think obviously, everything is kind of like a pendulum. It'll ebb and flow. And like, I think probably in the future, I think when you get to the point where like a 15-year-old in his parents' basement can make like a movie as good as anything else and beautiful, all with AI by himself for cheap.
yeah.
Like we get, you can debate like the merits of whether or not AI should be used, but like, should we stop a 15-year-old creative kid from making a movie that's just beautiful and stunning all for free, like, in his basement with just his free time? Like, I
Did
think
you
in the
see?
future, I
I
guess
saw this.
movies will have to compete with that ultimately.
I saw
Did
this
you see?
fan made ad the other day that really made me concerned about the future of AI. It was for the product Liquid Death, and I'm not sure if anyone else has seen that, but
Which water? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a pretty funny marketing scheme that those guys have. I can't stand sparkling water myself. I know that might be blasphemy for some.
Uh-oh. Oh, here it comes. That's like saying you don't like olives. Let's see what Peter has to say about sparkling water. Yeah.
But yeah, go look up this ad. Anyone who's curious, because it was a really funny ad. Like it had me laughing, and it was just an effective ad that left me feeling like, yeah, there's no reason that AI couldn't pretty easily outsource at least commercials at this
Do you guys
point.
have any strong feelings about AI? Like, is that something that like is it something inevitable that like there's no reason to really fight back? Because like again, it's like you're gonna get people that have no budget but want to create things. So I kind of feel like it's inevitable, and like I don't know if Hollywood is necessarily helping themselves with all of their budgetary and economic and distribution issues and problems that they're having right now. I don't know if they're helping any of that by being so resistant to AI. And there's a lot of ethics around it, but I don't know. I
I
guess I
think
don't really have strong opinions for or against it, but I'm always curious to hear what other people think.
I
I
guess
think
that's
that
an interesting thought. Did you see? I was going to ask that movie Kung Fury. That was like this kind of in a basement made
I
movie.
did see it. I did
So
see it.
that one was
It's
really funny.
hilarious.
A lot of it is your computer generation. So if you've got computer generated graphics, because we already are in an era where a lot of movies just look like an expensive video game,
Right.
a spaceship flying around getting blown up, and it's like versus like okay. And then if you just have the whole AI do the whole thing, it's like it's a tool. I think there's a place for it. Like when the Lord of the Rings came out, it was so clever because they used CGI, but they take a picture of a real landscape and then use CGI enhancements. And
Yeah.
I think when you get in trouble is when you're like the whole image you're looking at is entirely CGI. That's a problem. But if you have a creative human mind using AI or CGI as a tool to enhance a human story, I think that then it's just another tool we can use. But yeah, it
I
can be
guess, but
abused.
do movies and TV, do they always have to have a human element? Like, you know, is that something that we'll have to
Yeah.
legislate by law, or is it something that like you'll be blacklisted from all the awards or all the, you know,
Well,
industries and production companies? Like,
On an
I think it
objective
just won't
level, I
be.
can't think of
Yeah.
a good reason why I shouldn't be able to appreciate something made by AI does tap into those if it does tap into my feelings and make me
Well, that's
but
interesting though, because there's a that's a complex question because there's a certain education level. It's like
yeah,
I've been working in writing for 50 years now, so I have a pretty good understanding of what is a quality piece of writing versus something that's garbage. But if you're showing it to a kid who's never seen a movie before,
yeah,
then it's like they just think that's something they get the impression that it's real and they don't have a context of life and experience. So there's a certain
yeah.
amount of but what you're saying, yeah, that's I hadn't boy, that's a bigger question than I'm equipped to answer right now, I think. So I
I
well, I
think
mean, like,
I worry a
that's a
lot
good
about the
one.
future of creativity, and I think that AI is a huge threat to all of us, really. I think it's a threat to musicians and artists of all sorts. And I'm very thankful sometimes that writing is the path that I chose because, at least so far to me, it feels like it's the one that's the most immune to what AI is trying to replace. And the leaps and bounds that I've seen it make in music and image generation and video generation, comparatively speaking, it really makes me feel like some of these creators don't have long left. But when I see what happens when I tell AI to write an essay, I'm still so unimpressed that it makes me confident in my own pursuits.
yeah, definitely can't do comedy. Like, yeah, I play around every once in a while. I'll like just copy and paste like a bunch of my headlines and like I'll do some prompt of like write me more jokes like this, and it's like
Yeah,
really it really does a terrible job. It doesn't get
yeah,
comedy. And I've heard compelling thoughts. I mean, I think music is probably the one area that is like most affected, where you can just like
yeah,
relatively AI slop of music is not that much different than like regular music. I mean, you still have very creative people, but like I listen to lo-fi playlists and a lot of stuff that has no lyrics while I'm
yeah,
writing. And like that is easily something that could be totally replicated by AI, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
like on the other hand, like can it really write a whole new Taylor Swift album that everyone's going to care about that didn't have Taylor Swift like living a year and a half,
yeah,
having all these experiences, going with her songwriters and producers, like evolving as a person? Like at a certain point, like, will it ever, like, I guess it's hard for me to think that like AI will ever be truly creative because so much of creativity is taking things that don't relate and jamming them together or using one
Yeah.
area to influence another idea you have. And AI kind of can't do that. And I've heard like compelling things that like AI, you know, you have to stop it from using its own AI result into future results because then
yeah.
you just get this like regression to the mean of just like crap. And you get the thing where it's like, you know, like you can't have so many images of humans with 10 hands before, or like, you know,
Right.
10 finger or 12 fingers rather. Like at a certain point, like I wonder if we are afraid of AI for unfounded reasons, but
I think I have a I think there's a good point there where if we have a distribution mechanism that allows human beings to actually determine merit, then we'll be fine. But we don't have that right now. We already have an algorithm based system that shows us certain content, whether we want to see it or not. So I think maybe this
yes, that's true.
conversation, yeah, and so this conversation isn't about AI at all. This conversation should be about empowering human beings to make the choice of the media they consume,
Right.
which we
That's a good
don't
point.
have. And we don't even have tools. Like I was saying, I'd like to go on Netflix and say, don't even show me a suggestion by a film with Mark Wahlberg. I just don't want to watch anything. You can't do that. You can't make a list of all these people of films I never want to see, and there's a reason. It's because those platforms want to control that. They want to be able to show the same six movies to us over and over again. So would they just wear us down so we watch it? And so that's
Yeah.
where AI becomes a problem because they can force feed it to us.
That
That's the
seems like
issue.
the dystopian aspect to it because yeah, like when you look
Yeah.
at Spotify and like all their new artists like are just people who paid Spotify, like a lot of
Yeah.
their platform, you know, if they just start only showing you AI stuff and they make it and then they take all the money and now
Yeah.
like no human creatives are making any
Yeah.
money, you know, that's not ideal. So that's a good you know, I guess at the end of the day everything comes down to like economic exploitation
Yes.
from the top.
Well, and
It's
that's what's
one thing
driving
when
the
you
movement
think
much
of
it's a
robots taking the job of like toll booth operators and things like that, but it's another one you think of them
yeah.
getting in the way of people who are
Yeah,
actually
that's
just
what's so
fundamentally
frustrating. It's
creating
like,
from their soul. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
right.
yeah.
sucks. That
Why is
sucks.
AI taking the creative jobs? Why is
Yeah.
AI not why are they not taking the coal mining jobs and like
Right,
the
right.
worst jobs? Why can't we figure
Yeah.
out a way to AI do that?
Well, this is what's driving the movement to Substack, though, too, because Substack is one of the best platforms for that, where people can follow the creators they want. Thank you for all you guys for supporting us. And but it's really a bigger issue. And I've tried to talk with people in the literary community about this. It's like as much as merit of the text, you have to be talking about the distribution of mechanism by which people interact with text. And the more it's like it doesn't matter if somebody comes from poverty if they wrote something great, but that pathway to publication for somebody from poverty just isn't there. I mean, we've got this very narrow window of perspectives that anybody's even allowed to interact with. I mean, it used to be too that like new artists could go on YouTube and release a song. Very few, a couple of them did break through, but very few of them. And yeah, where are all the independent movies now? I mean, that used to be a blast. And like you were saying before, I used to love just waiting for those film with like an $8 million budget that like Nicolas Cage would take on or somebody just to make something that actually challenged them artistically as opposed to the blockbusters. And yeah, that's kind of gone, but I think there's still a hunger for it. And so maybe that's what is going to, sustain the human race in the end.
What I will say about that, I feel like it's become a very common perception that those kind of movies aren't still being made. But I don't know, it's my experience at least that I've just begun seeking them out in the last few
Yeah,
years, and as a result, I feel like I'm inundated by indie movies these days, and there are tons
they're
and
still out
tons
there.
of
Yeah.
them, and it's just about where you look. Um,
I guess
but
they were always
but
hard to find. And it's just there's a new process of finding them, but they're still out there.
but
What do you
I
guys
talked to
think?
a lot of people who seem convinced that it is only the big movies that are being made these days, and really it's just the big movies that are being talked about.
That's true. How much do you guys think, like the maybe slow downfall of movie theaters is like part of this? Like people don't go to movies as much in the theater. Like it used to when I was in middle school, like, a ticket was $6.50 and we went like every weekend, like every
Yeah.
Friday night, me and my friends would go see, and you see like all like a lot of movies that were basically made for teens doing exactly that. Like especially a lot of like the kind of like semi-comedic like horror movie genre was definitely kind of like
Yeah.
at least at the time I
Yeah.
thought kind of like tailor-made to like middle schoolers spending their allowance weekly. But like, is that a problem for movies or like art in general, that now we just are always on our phones and like all of our media has to fit into a tiny screen? Like I think about this even in
Yeah.
terms of writing, like paragraph
Oh,
size. Like you can't just scroll a 500 word paragraph.
yep. I've
Whereas
written
if you're
about
on your
that before.
computer in a book, it's maybe not as big a deal.
I had one with a clickbait title that I wrote where it's just like the novel's dead, and it's because people aren't buying books anymore. It's like if you want to do your long form storytelling, you have to direct it to a cell phone because that's where people are. So
Yeah.
it's just like we just have to adapt to that, I think. So yeah, I mean, right now, even though movie theaters are kind of dying, movies people still want to see good movies, and they have in their hands a device. I don't think anybody's really utilized completely the cell phone screen, in the form of, but it kind of transforms the kind of things we interact with. You make something specifically for a cell phone screen, maybe it'll be in rather than in landscape mode, you're filming now in portrait mode. Nobody's done that yet. So
I'm actually very curious what the national and global numbers are there for how movie theaters are doing. But my own experience as someone who goes regularly is that this is a thriving industry and that it's a exciting time to go to some of these theaters because you've got all these different options for screenings. For example, like you can see Screen X and 3D and 4DX and IMAX and
true.
each, and it's a little bit confusing on one hand. I don't love that aspect of it. But if you do know what each has to offer, I think that it's become a more refined experience in a lot of ways. And on one hand, what you say is very true about cell phones and how, yeah, people are spending half their time these days, or more than half their time, just watching shit on YouTube and TikTok. But on the other hand, I think that it's our attachment to our cell phones that have made, at least for me, that have made movies so exciting again. Because I do this terrible thing, and I think I've talked about this a little bit before, where I'm watching a show or movie and I make it earn my attention. I'm scrolling casually on my phone, and things start to get interesting, and I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on here. Whereas when I actually go to the theater, I'm just like, okay, you know what? I just bought this ticket. I'm in this dark theater. Put your phone the fuck down, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kinda like that. I like going to movies alone, actually, just by myself. Like, I saw the movie, The Brutalist, like, good movie to watch alone, I feel like. It's long, sprawling,
Yeah.
kinda epic,
Not
but
a good date movie, huh? Let's go
Oh,
see The
yeah,
Brutalist.
maybe
Huh?
and
yeah,
Oppenheimer
no
in
date should go
theaters.
with me, I guess.
Mm.
But I kinda like it, just, like, taking it in all by yourself, and then I especially prefer to, like I'm pretty, I guess, lucky that when I go, it's usually, like, an empty theater too, like, I'll go, like, at a if I'm on a job or something, like, in a city that I don't live in, it's just, like, 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever, and I'll just pick a random movie that's been out for a while, and it's kinda nice when even, like, the theater is kind of empty, but
Yeah.
I I saw, Oppenheimer in, a 70 millimeter IMAX theater, and it was a really exciting experience. Because of how perfect a medium it is for seeing that movie, and
yeah.
B, because of how absolutely packed the theater was. Like, you actually had to buy your seat a week in advance,
Oh,
like,
right.
to get into that theater, and I had never seen anything like that, and mind you, this is post-pandemic that I'm having that challenge.
Nice.
And, it was the same exact deal for, Interstellar. So, for Christopher Nolan movies especially, it seems like there's a quiet audience of aficionados that really knows what to look for.
I
That's
saw,
true.
Oppenheimer on a, American Airlines, like, 3
Oh,
inch by
no.
3 inch
Nope,
screen. I'm
nope.
pretty sure that's how Christopher Nolan intended.
He probably would have banned it from that.
It's
Yeah.
definitely how he intended it, yeah.
So,
Um
one oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think Christopher Nolan is such a good example of like an auteur, which is something that you really get in film, and like not always does it translate as well in other mediums, but
Yeah.
I like how he's got such a distinctive style, and I think I think especially with big budgets, like you get so many studio notes, you get so many producer notes, like every executive producer that gets tagged on has to like throw in their
Yeah.
notes. But I think Christopher Nolan's probably a guy that just says, "Fuck you, I'm doing whatever I want to do," and
Yeah.
you're gonna put it in theaters exactly the cut I had, and I
I'm
kind of like
I'm
that.
I'm really
Folks are such
excited
a
to see The
mercy.
Odyssey. I just saw the,
Yeah.
first ad for that in theaters, and, that looks really
Who's is it?
exciting.
Matt Damon in that? Did I hear that?
Why am I
Do you know who's
blanking on
Who's the
on the
dismiss?
cast right
I
now?
didn't know that.
I
Oh,
could have
It
that'll be
just
does
made
have
good.
a
that up. I
very
don't know.
loaded cast that I'm entirely blanking on at the moment,
Okay.
but it looks very good. It
I'm actually reading the Odyssey right
there's
now. The I think her name's Emily Wilson. She's like getting a lot of buzz in the translation world for doing a lot of those old Greek ones. But
yeah.
it's kind of funny. The book is like way more scenes of just Odysseus going to random kings' whole like banquets and getting oiled up and fed. Like a lot of the book is just descriptions of him getting oiled up. Kind of funny.
And then well, I just like the slaughter scene at the end when he closes all the suitors in
Oh
the room. What
yeah,
hits you out of nowhere? Like some of those old books are like that where you're like boring, It's like holy
Yeah.
shit, he just killed like
yeah,
40
right.
people.
There were some books that I read in my high school English classes that I loved so much, but where there was a really huge disconnect for me was anything pre-Shakespearean. Like or Shakespearean even itself. I had to do the, I don't know if people are familiar with the No Fear Shakespeare, where they do the translation on the one side and
Oh,
the
okay.
Yeah.
Shakespearean on the other. But, I remember we did, the Odyssey in 10th grade, and our teacher had us skip half of the book because she just figured
Oh yeah.
so little of it was
Yeah.
really of
Yeah. As I
value for
yeah.
us.
I just read
My
it and I can totally,
Yeah.
confirm that that's a good idea. Like, half
my
of it could have been edited out.
my
And
told me
even the
my
half
daughter
I did read, I just didn't really connect with at all. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Walter?
my kids had found something on Spotify. I guess there's some performance of they were like I'm like, how did you guys learn so much about the Odyssey? They're going through like every and I'm like, did you know about and then they're like the identification scenes where his dog remembered they like knew everything from this Spotify performance. I don't know if you guys had heard about that. I should
No.
have found the
No.
name. I didn't get it, yeah. Well, the other movie my kids have been excited about lately, they'll be mad at me if I don't mention it, is the K-pop Demon Hunters. Have you seen or heard about this?
No, haven't heard of that.
Oh, you guys gotta find it. It's on Netflix. You're laughing, Ben. Did you hear about it?
No, I'm just not familiar with it. I thought it was just funny that they, recommended
They
it.
made me watch it last night. It actually is really good. It's an animated movie, so K-pop, and I'm like the last guy to
Yeah.
be talking about K-pop. I'm like, what is this? It's like a Korean boy band, I guess, is what that is. But it's like there's a girl band. So that yeah, there's a girl band, they sing their songs and they also kill demons. So it's sort of like what we were talking about before, where every movie has to be killing people. But this one almost is a mockery of that. And it's like through cleansing the human race, they're trying to cleanse the human race with their music, and the music is actually pretty good. But then there's like this whole identity. Yeah, K-pop Demon Hunters. Abby, yeah. Wait, did you like that one, Abby? She saw it. It's
Glad
it was
glad
really
we've got
good.
someone who's familiar with that in the crowd.
Yeah, yeah, she goes, "It's very good, LOL." So yeah, see, but it actually becomes this identity thing because like the lead demon hunter, she's trying to hide things about herself, and by the end of the movie, the only way she's able to actually succeed is by accepting both the good and bad in herself. It's sort of like,
Hmm.
and my daughter said, and she's like, "This is exactly the type of movie Disney would never make." Now, I thought that was a really astute comment because it's a diversity movie, and the United States, we were talking about different cultures. Unfortunately, right now in the United States, anything that's like a diversity, inclusion, equity type theme is going to be pushed to the side, and even if it's not completely eliminated, it's going to be suppressed. So it's like these
Yeah.
movies, like in K-pop Demon Hunters, like, well, that's the theme we've been looking for, and it's actually you'll like it if you sit down and watch it. It's actually surprisingly good.
I thought it was interesting that you said that you thought that, Disney wouldn't explore that because I was only seconds away from making a comparison to Inside Out too.
Yeah, okay. Well, obviously there's exceptions, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's been a couple things recently where what was the other one? Elio. My daughter was telling me this.
Mm.
Apparently, Elio or Disney had some influence on what they wanted to do with Elio. And
I
what
love
was
those
that other
Pixar
one that they
movies.
did?
They're
Yeah,
among
there's
my
been a
very
couple things.
favorite.
I'm sorry.
I love some of those Pixar movies. They're among my very favorite. I can't
Oh yeah,
remember.
the Pixar. They're really, I mean, it goes back and forth. It goes up and down,
Yeah.
and then a lot of it depends on when these things were put into production and when they're finally released. But I mean, look at the pushback, like the Superman movie. James Gunn says, "Well, Superman's an immigrant," and all of a sudden the internet's flooded with like these weird negative reviews. Like people just get so mad about this. Like any positive statement about
Yeah. Yeah.
positive representation of an immigrant pisses everybody off. It's like, come on.
It's so
Yeah.
dumb 'cause I saw a funny tweet, I forget who, and, like, I'm gonna paraphrase it, but it was basically like, "Why is there so much, like, liberal propaganda in all the art? Why can't artists just make art from a void abyss of, like, no emotional or empathetic connection?" And it's like the idea of, can conservatives be funny? Can they make great art, when they just have that kind of, like, top-down mentality? And then, like, yeah, it's like Charlie Kirk, like anytime he sees a
Yeah,
black person in any job, DEI. It's like
yeah,
this dude, I think you're just racist.
yeah. And then
Mm.
they even have said, I've seen conservatives say it's kind of harder for conservatives because liberals do have facts on their side.
There,
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
the
it's like
scientific process. Yeah.
yeah, it's like Twitter with Grok and Elon Musk like keep having a problem that Grok has a liberal bias, and he keeps having. What do you guys think about the Mecha Hitler? Like
Oh
he
man,
That
tweaked
felt
the
so
algorithm and now he's
what
calling
is that?
himself Mecha
that
Hitler.
Oh,
I reading the comment from Grok itself, it felt so at odds with what I've seen from any AI produce, and I've even had conversations with Grok myself. I wondered whether there was like some person behind that or someone who gave it a prompt to say that. It just not something that you would see Grok do on its own. Like
what?
I'm very curious what elicited that.
You got to give me more context. I don't know what this is. What
Oh,
happened?
Anyway,
so
it
Elon
was
Musk like tweaked Grok because people were complaining that it was too liberal because it kept fact checking conservatives. Like, maybe not a big surprise if you've been around in politics for the last 25 years that they maybe don't live in reality a little
Oh,
bit. But so he tweaked it, and then all of a sudden it started like mocking Jews. It started calling itself Mecha Hitler and bringing up Hitler in like random circumstances. It's
so
like yeah, again, that's like satire. Like I can't write anything that keeps up
yeah,
with that.
so
Like if
apparently,
I
so
wrote that, it'd
insane.
be stupid.
so
Yeah.
you would guess that
Yeah.
they were got mad that their AI was critical of conservatives, so they like tweaked it so it'd be less critical, and they
I
made
guess,
the
yeah,
AI
yeah,
into like a Nazi by accident. Is that kind of what
yeah.
happened?
Essentially,
Behind the
true
scenes, they're
story. That
fixing the
literally
thing.
happened.
Yeah. Oh man, they can't win. I keep saying this. It's like they're doomed to crumble. The fascists always crumble under their own weight. It's like their incompetence. Their evil is only exceeded by their incompetence. So it's just like it's doomed to
Yeah.
fail.
Well,
We just have
there's
to
a big
watch
thing
it.
right now with conservatives saying that we're manipulating the weather and there are these weather controlling
Yeah,
machines, as if
yeah,
liberals haven't spent 25 years constantly saying global warming, climate change is
yeah.
going to make weather worse. And
Huh.
now we get to the point 25 years later, our weather's getting like out of control. And they're like, it must be the liberals that are like controlling the weather and sending hurricanes at the
We should
like,
hit him back with now is the not the time to talk about liberal control of the weather. Like the way
yeah.
ours they're like, now's not the time to talk about gun
Yeah,
control.
yeah, right. We'll just pray about it, I guess. I don't know.
That's
Thoughts
what
and
we're
prayers for the
covertly
weather.
admitting. Oh man, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess you've figured it out. You figured out the fertile little window for making satire out of these days because yours is always instantly recognizable as satire, so I don't get upset. I always laugh, so that's good.
So, do you guys have on another deeply, deeply unrelated note?
That's good.
Do you guys have any thoughts on the 28 Days Later franchise? Have you seen Days
Uh,
Later, Weeks Later, or the new one?
I saw the first one. Is that Days Later, right?
Yes, yes.
That was pretty good.
Days,
I
weeks,
really
and years,
liked
right?
the final like half hour of that movie. Whatever that song is that is going is like, oh man, I gotta rewatch that. It's probably been like 25 years. Or I
There's-
don't know how long it's been, but
there
28.
were a
like
few
that's a
there were a
lie.
few parts of
It
that
was newer
soundtrack
than
that
that probably.
there were a few components of that soundtrack that really stuck with me. I really like the very bright song that they play while they're plundering the apocalyptic supermarket. I'm blanking now. But
Okay.
it's
Oh,
very very at odds with the scenery at the moment, and I always like that kind of discordance when the very happy bright song is played over some just deeply apocalyptic fallout.
Yeah,
I
it's a good
remember seeing that when it
juxtaposition.
came out. I thought it was good when it came out, and
Yeah,
I
and I
don't like horror movies all that much, and it wasn't that scary.
yeah the cinematic style behind it too is really cool. They shot it with like a an older camera, and it really you can really I'm blanking now on what it was the type of camera was called, but it looks really cool. You can definitely see that it's looks like it's from another time. And this new one was shot entirely on iPhones, and also does some very very cinematically interesting things as a result. For a couple of the scenes, they actually have like a whole array of iPhones like set up and lined up beside each other, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I saw a clip or an image of that of their rig with all the iPhones.
yeah,
That's kind of cool.
You know, what you were saying before, it's like that was what we were talking about before, with people making films in their garage. We should write a script that we can film entirely on a Substack Live and do like our 2 hour. You bring in new characters, you uninvite guests and bring in new guests. People can be doing weird
Yeah.
things in the background, you know? That'd be kind of something fun to do.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that like I'm not as doomer about AI stuff as some people is just that like when you lower the barrier to entry and you make it cheaper to make it, you just have more people making interesting things. And then you'll have
Yeah.
more ideas that are more creative outside of the kind of like traditional gatekeepers that is like money, first of all, but also like all the production like how much of like the world's best art was literally because of the limitations of money or gatekeepers and
yeah,
people just figure out ways around it, you know?
Yes. And
yeah.
it's sort of like if
I
you
have
write
seen
something
some.
good,
I
go ahead.
have seen some applications of the Google VO3 that have been so funny to me that I'm thankful that this kind of technology is being democratized. But at the same time, I do think that the negatives outweigh the positives. A I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's definitely one of those issues I go really back and forth on. Like, I think that having these tools available to all of us, it really could be a useful thing, and it's pretty cool to see so many people able to create who didn't used to be able to. But at the same time, as a writer who's worked for my talents, it frustrates me to see people just make a Medium account and just say, "Oh, I have the ideas, but I'm just
Yeah.
prompting ChatGPT to write them for me."
Well, don't you
So
think it'll just make more of the same? As in, like, more people will just put out slop, which will mean the
Yeah.
human people that do it will just stand out further, and it'll just make more money for the people who actually do it well and aren't dependent
Yeah.
on like the same, like putting out content that's the same as everything else.
That's why I'm more worried about the distribution mechanism because it's like the good stuff is going to endure. I mean, if you write something good on a napkin, with crayon, somebody will read it and they'll repeat it. if you write something bad and you carve it in stone, erosion's going to wipe it away and it'll be forgotten. So it's sort of like, yeah, if it's controlled what people can see, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. Do you think the Substack kind of like platform of like the subscription base is kind of like the future? And then
I hope. Yeah.
I had another point or another thought where do you think Substack will basically kind of recreate like some version of cable where you just bundle all the writers and you get paid? Like are we just kind of like a cycle just going between like
Yeah.
super democratized like
Yeah.
content and then bundling it
I'm
all
sure.
up? I guess I don't have the verbiage to describe what I'm saying, but hopefully that makes sense.
Well, that's what Medium did. Medium would bumble everybody up and then pay based on what came out. But I mean, it's
Right.
like I've been writing long enough, and it's always like you find something, it's good for 2 or 3 years, then something changes it. It's like all that needs to happen. I mean, look at the Twitter. Somebody buys Twitter and completely guts Twitter, and then it's something different. So that could happen with Substack. But I think like open platform stuff. I mean, it would be really nice if we had an open platform, something like Substack, where the same thing could happen without a single person controlling it, and then just that kind of vulnerability. Like wealth distribution is how you prevent corruption, right?
Right.
If everybody has power, then nobody can be exploited, and that's why we need to completely transform our whole perception of our whole reality, and that exists with the transfer of information too. But you have nefarious forces who don't want certain topics talked about because they're benefiting from an unjust system. So they want to keep up all this. Everything's great. Everything's perfect. This is the best it could possibly be. And all the people say, well, actually, I've got an experience that gets pushed to the side. So Substack is a good start. I hope it keeps expanding, but we'll see. It's always vulnerable. We're not going to stop writing though. So, we lose you. He went out.
Yeah, right. Oh no, yeah.
Good, good.
I got like an alarm going on for something to froze for a sec, but yeah, do you think it's just like a cyclical thing? Like,
Yep.
how long before enshittification sets in on Substack and they just start squeezing out like as much money as they can and just start doing an advertising and then like a new platform comes out? Like it seems to be
There's
like, at least in the digital age, is just like that cycle of enshittification. Like Facebook is like truly enshittified now, and like young people
Yeah.
don't use it at all. Twitter, like, Elon Musk like totally wrecked that. And now Threads, I saw, now has like almost as many users as Twitter does. So kind of a
Yep.
big stepping on a rake there by Elon Musk.
Yep. And I think
I
it's
try
just
not to
part of
get
technology. Oh, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
I try not to get too cynical about my thoughts on Substack, but I do fear that the enshittification is setting in.
It's inevitable. Technology goes so fast these days, and it's just sort of like the old story about Xerox, how Xerox came up with the mouse and like graphics. It came up with everything, and then like the CEOs didn't recognize what their programmers had created, and they're just
Right.
like invited Gates and Jobs in and they stole it all. And so it's just like people just can't perceive, and that's kind of actually to our benefit. That's what keeps human beings going because the technology changes faster than we can. It takes the geniuses sitting in their garages to recognize how they can use the tool. They
Yeah,
do
right.
it, and then the oppressive forces are kind of slow because they always lack imagination. So I think
Yeah.
we call it enshittification, but it's actually it's churn. It's good for us.
Yeah, it's kind
Things
of like a
change, get
forest
better.
fire, getting rid of all like the undergrowth that's like
Yeah,
decaying. And then eventually you're 90 years old and complaining about everything because everything's
yeah.
different than when you grew up. And then just the next generation lives and creates the world they want to live in and does it their own way. And you just are bitter about it until you die.
I'm already that
Cycle of
way.
life.
I'm only 50. Yeah, it's all right. Get off my yard. Yeah, that's a good place to be. I'm gonna be like Gandalf. That's what I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get
Yeah.
a good Gandalf wizard hat and start walking the countryside. That's my plan.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, we're closing in on time, but I'm been delighted with this conversation. We covered some ground. I got a lot of things to think about now. Dash. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was wonderful having you on the show, my guy. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Do it
Canopy,
again sometime.
canopy.com you mentioned. Is that
Yeah,
what the
you
website with to get the
What'd you
old
say?
movies? Canopy.com is the where to get the old movies.
Yeah, with a K. Yeah, they have a lot of
Thank you.
Oscar winners. It's like just way better curated than any other platform, I think. And you can get it for free if you have a library subscription. Like most libraries, I think will pay for it.
yeah, you're the
Awesome.
second person that I heard bring that up just this week, so I'm actually excited to check that out.
That's
I
karma. That's
recommend
the
it.
universe. That's the universe telling you what to do there, Ben.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
thank
Well,
you
thanks so
everybody
much
for
for
joining
coming.
us. It's been
Yeah.
a great talk, everybody, and yeah, thank you again for joining us, Tash.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it again.
Yep. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time, everybody.
See you, everybody.
Have a good one.